Welcome to this 22nd online lecture session of the course Engineering Thermodynamics. In the last lecture, we had discussion on the Carnot cycle, and on the basis of Carnot cycle, we have started our discussion to define absolute thermodynamic temperature scale. While defining the absolute thermodynamic temperature scale, we have come up with the idea that ratio of the heat transfer from the reservoir, that is QH divided by QL, is nothing but equal to psi of H divided by psi of TL. Okay. Then I have told you that we may have multiple arbitrary combinations for psi of TH and psi of TL, which will be satisfying this particular formulation. However, it was the Lord Kelvin first who have used very simplified formulation where y of TH he has just substituted as value of temperature in Kelvin. Similarly, psi of TL he has substituted as value of temperature of the low temperature thermal reservoir, and that also he substituted in Kelvin. Okay, and finally we have got our formulation QH by QL as nothing but equal to TH in Kelvin divided by TL in Kelvin. So ratio of the temperatures in Kelvin scale. As this psi of TH and psi of TL is something which is coming from the absolute thermodynamic scale, and this functional form is being satisfied by the value of temperature which is in the Kelvin scale. So that's why Kelvin scale is also referred to as nothing but absolute thermodynamic scale of temperature. Okay. Apart from this, let me also try to obtain this thermodynamic absolute temperature scale for ideal gas. Okay, so now I'll be calling this scale as nothing but ideal gas thermodynamic temperature scale. Okay. So now what will be happening? We know if I plot my Carnot cycle by using piston cylinder arrangement and considering the working medium as nothing but my ideal gas. So in that case, what will be happening? I'll be having process 1 to 2, something like this. Then I'll be having process number 2 to 3. Okay. Then I'll be having some process from 3 to 4, and I'll be having some process from 4 to 1. Okay, so this will be my cycle, Carnot cycle. Now we know that in this Carnot cycle, the process number 1 to 2 is nothing but an isothermal process. So let me define that there is some constant temperature line, and the value of this is nothing but equal to TH. And for the process number 3 to 4 also, we have some another constant temperature line, and let me define its value as nothing but equal to TL. Okay. Now what will be happening if I apply over here the first law of thermodynamics equation? Let me first do it for process. So let me first write down the generalized form. So if I write generalized form, I'll be finding that Q net minus W net will be equal to du. Okay. So if I write it on per unit mass basis, I can write that Q net divided by M minus W net divided by M will be equal to D into small u. Okay. Now I am saying that my working medium over here is nothing but an ideal gas. Okay. So if my working medium is ideal gas, in that case, what will be happening? This du I can write on the right hand side as nothing but equal to Cv naught into dt. All of you please mute your microphone. So on the right hand side, I'll be finding that du is equal to nothing but Cv naught into dt, and this q net by m I can write small q net, where small q net refers to as the heat transfer per unit mass. Okay. Similarly for w net I can write minus small w net, that is also net amount of work done per unit mass. So now this is a closed system. We know that in a closed system work done will be nothing but equal to P into dV. Okay. So this V, now I am writing small v, it is a specific volume over here. So I'll be finally finding my equation that net amount of heat transfer is nothing but equal to Cv naught into dt plus P into dV. Okay, so this is my generalized form of equation of first law of thermodynamics, particularly if our working medium is nothing but an ideal gas. Okay. Now let me apply this particular equation to the different processes over here. Meenal, please mute your microphone. Okay, so now if I apply this particular equation for process number 1 to 2, so during process number 1 to 2, you can see that we will be adding over here certain amount of heat. Let me call that amount of heat what we have added on per unit mass basis as small QH. And during this time, what is happening, our actually volume is changing from 1 to 2. So obviously we will be having some work interaction also over here, W1 to 2, and that work interaction will be nothing but equal to P into dV integral. Okay. So now if I see my process number 1 to 2, so for process number 1 to 2, we will be finding that we are adding Q net is nothing but equal to QH, and minus we don't have any heat which is going out in process number 1 to 2. So QH minus 0 will be equal to CV naught into dt. This will be integration from point number 1 to point number 2. Okay. And we are having plus P times dV, this integration from point number 1 to 2. Now I know from my ideal gas equation that PV is equal to nothing but RT. So P I can replace over here as RT divided by V. So if I do this replacement, I'll be finding that QH is equal to, now this integral of CV naught into dt will be equal to 0. Why it will be 0? Because we know that temperature at point 1 is equal to temperature at point 2. So if my limits of integration are same, because at point 1 and 2 both the temperatures are equal to TH, because it is an isothermal process. Okay, so if my limits of integration is actually same, so because of that, first term will be equal to 0 plus integration 1 to 2, in place of P I can write RT divided by V into dV. Now what will be happening over here, R into T will be acting constant. Now for process 1 to 2, my T is nothing but equal to dx. Okay. And dV by V will become ln of V2 divided by V1. Okay. So this is my process number 1 to 2. Now if the same equation I write for process number 2 to 3, so for process number 2 to 3, my net amount of heat transfer will be 0, because 2 to 3 is if you go back to the PV diagram and if you see 2 to 3 process is nothing but reversible adiabatic process. Okay, so over here we will be only having work interaction, heat interaction is 0. So because of that, left hand side of the equation will be equal to 0, and in the right hand side we will be finding CV naught into dt and its integration from point number 2 to point number 3, plus in place of P now I am writing RT. So RT by V into dV, and this integration also we are doing nothing but from point number 2 to point number 3. Now let me divide this whole equation throughout by T. So if I divide throughout by T, I will be finding 0 is equal to integration 2 to 3 CV naught by T into dt, and this will be over here plus in place of, now T is taken over here because I have divided both sides by T. So I'll be finally finding plus R times ln of V3 divided by V2. Okay. And finally, if I do substitution, or if I do this take CV naught by T term to the left hand side, I'll be finally finding that integration from 2 to 3. So at point number 2, our temperature is nothing but equal to TH, and at point number 3, our temperature is nothing but equal to TL. So finally, I'll be finding that limit of integration from TH to TL into CV naught by T dt, this will be equal to, now if I bring this R to to the right hand side, so obviously it will be getting a negative sign. So that negative sign I can balance by reciprocating, by taking the reciprocal of the terms which are there inside the log. So inside log I can simply write as V2 by V3. Okay. Okay, so I was discussing about the equation for process number 2 to 3. We have got this as the final form, and process number 1 to 2, we have got QH is equal to R into TH ln V2 by V1. Okay, so this is the final form which I have got over here. Okay, now let me go to process number 3 to 4. So if I go to 3 to 4 process, it is nothing but once again isothermal heat rejection process. So what we have to do now for isothermal heat rejection process, we will be having heat addition as 0. So 0 minus QL amount of heat we are rejecting, that will be equal to CV naught integration from 3 to 4 into dt plus we will be having integral 3 to 4 R into T divided by V dV. Okay. So over here what will be happening? Once again we know the temperature of T3 equal to T4 is equal to TL. So this I'll be finding minus QL will be equal to first term of the integration will be 0 plus over here R into, instead of T I can write TL for process number 3 to 4. So TL is also constant over here, and I'll be finding ln of V4 divided by V3. So this will give me the formulation QL is equal to R times TL into ln of V3 divided by V4. So this is something which I have got for process number 3 to 4. Now let me go to process number 4 to 1. For process number 4 to 1, what will be happening? Once again, it is an reversible adiabatic compression process. So because of that, our heat transfer will be 0. Heat transfer will be 0, and we will be finding 0 equal to CV naught dt integration from 4 to 1 plus RT divided by small v dv into integration from 4 to 1. Okay. So what finally I will be finding, if now once again I have to divide both sides by t. So if I divide, I'll be finding integral 4 to 1 CV naught divided by t into dt plus R will be constant and ln of V1 by V4. Okay. So now I will be taking this CV naught to the or R to the right hand side. So if I just change the side, I will be finding that CV naught divided by T into dt. Obviously, the temperature at point 4 is equal to TL, and temperature at point 1 is equal to nothing but our TH, and this will come with a minus sign. Okay, so this will be equal to R times ln of over here I have done integration from V1, so V1 divided by V4. Now if I change these limits, so if I change the limits, I'll be finding finally that integration from TH to TL CV naught divided by T into dt is nothing but equal to R times ln of V1 divided by V4. Okay, so this is the equation which we have got for our process number 4 to 1. Now, if you compare this particular equation for 4 to 1 with our earlier equation which we have derived for process number 2 to 3, so we will be finding that left hand side of both these equations. So you see CV naught by T dt from TH to TL. This is we have got for 2 to 3, and same left hand side we have got for process number 4 to 1 also. Okay, so from here I can say that R into ln of V2 by V3. Okay, so finally I can say that R times ln of, it was V2 by V3. Okay, R times ln of V2 by V3, this will be equal to nothing but R times from here ln of V1 by V4. Okay, so ln of V1 by V4. finally I'll be finding all the terms will be cancelling, log will be cancelling, R will be cancelling and log will be cancelling, and I'll be finding finally that V2 by V3 is nothing but equal to V1 by V4, and I can say that V2 by V1 is finally equal to V3 by V4. Okay, so this is the formulation which we have got after we have balanced the equations, left hand side of equation, particularly for process number 4 to 1 and process number 2 to 3. Okay, now we have got two equations, one for QH and one for QL. So I'll be finding QH by QL as nothing but equal to what I have value of QH. If you go to process number 1 to 2, QH is nothing but equal to R times TH ln V2 by V1. Okay, so R times TH ln V2 divided by V1. And if I see the value of QL, so QL is R times TL ln V3 by V4. R times TL into ln V3 divided by V4. Now we know that V3 by V4 equal to V2 by V1. So that's why I can cancel out these terms over here. R will also be cancelling out. And finally, from the ideal gas formulation also, I am finding that QH by QL is becoming as nothing but equal to TH divided by TL. Okay, so this TH and TL we have taken while we have written PV is equal to RT, our ideal gas equation. So while we write the ideal gas equation, we always substitute our temperature in nothing but Kelvin. So because of that, this TH and TL are also in Kelvin scale. Okay, so earlier while we have taken the generalized case for a generalized working fluid, there we have got some functional form, and we found particularly Lord Kelvin found that this functional form is actually satisfied by the value of temperature if we substitute that value of temperature in Kelvin. Okay, now over here what we are having, we have this QH by QL equal to TH in Kelvin scale divided by TL in Kelvin scale, while we have considered the working medium as nothing but our ideal gas. Okay, so from this particular formulation also we are able to get that the ratio of QH by QL is becoming equal to the corresponding temperature ratios in Kelvin from where actually heat transfer is taking place. Okay, so once we have got this particular formulation for heat transfer, so now using this particular formulation of absolute thermodynamic temperature scale, we can define the maximum efficiency of the heat engine. Okay, so we know for heat engine, earlier we have seen that eta is nothing but equal to 1 minus Q2 divided by Q1. Okay, so this Q2 by Q1, this equation is valid for any type of heat engine. Any type means it may be reversible or it may be irreversible. Okay, so irrespective of the kind of the heat engine, whether it is reversible or irreversible, this particular formulation will always be applicable. Okay, however, while we have defined the absolute thermodynamic temperature scale, we have considered nothing but our Carnot cycle as our fundamental basis for defining the absolute temperature scale. Okay, so as per absolute thermodynamic temperature scale, we have got that Q2 by Q1 is nothing but equal to T2 divided by T1. But this particular thing is derived when we have considered our fundamental basis as nothing but Carnot cycle. And Carnot cycle says that it has all the processes as nothing but reversible processes. Okay, so it means I can substitute this Q2 by Q1 equal to T2 by T1. This will be only true if my cycle is or all the processes in the cycle are reversible. Okay, so because of that, for an reversible cycle, if I say that, okay, I am talking about the efficiency of the reversible cycle, then I can simply write that Q2 by Q1 is nothing but equal to T2 by T1. And finally, I'll be finding efficiency of heat engine as 1 minus T2 by T1. Okay, so now whatever the value of this reversible cycle efficiency we have got, which is equal to 1 minus T2 by T1, this is actually the maximum efficiency that we can obtain from a heat engine. Okay, so this is the maximum efficiency which will be possible. So this is the maximum possible efficiency at which we can transfer heat into work. Okay, why? Because this reversible formulation of efficiency which we have got in the form of T2 and T1, this is obtained from the Carnot cycle, and Carnot cycle considers that all the processes are reversible, and reversible processes are actually the idealized processes which produces maximum work during the work producing devices and consumes least work during the work consuming devices. Okay, so because of that, whatever the formulation of reversible efficiency we are getting, eta reversible equal to 1 minus T2 by T1, this will be the maximum possible efficiency when our cycle is operating in completely reversible manner between the temperature limits T1 and T2. Okay. Now, similarly, let me also try to explain the coefficient of performance of refrigerator also. So if I talk about coefficient of performance of refrigerator, we know it is given by symbol beta. So now let me define this beta for a reversible refrigerator. So for a reversible refrigerator, what will be happening? We know that beta equal to QL divided by QH minus QL. So this is once again the generalized formulation. So from here I can say that 1 divided by QH by QL minus 1. So finally I can replace QH by QL with TH divided by TL minus 1. And finally I'll be finding that COP of the reversible refrigerator is nothing but equal to TL divided by TH minus TL. So once again, this is the maximum possible COP of the refrigerator. Okay. So this is maximum possible COP. Similarly, if I talk about heat pump, so for heat pump, what will be happening? We define the symbol as beta dash. So beta dash reversible will be becoming nothing but equal to QH divided by QH minus QL. So if you just apply this formulation over here, finally we will be finding that it will be nothing but equal to TH divided by TH minus TL. So this will be my maximum, once again, maximum possible COP of a heat pump device. Okay, so that is one very important formulation which we have got over here after obtaining the formulation of adiabatic, absolute thermodynamic temperature scale from our Carnot cycle. Okay, so it means now if I have to write in generalized form, I can write efficiency as nothing but equal to 1 minus Q2 by Q1. So this Q2 by Q1 is nothing but applicable for any process irrespective of its type, whether it is reversible or irreversible. Okay. However, if I have to define the efficiency for reversible heat engine, that will be equal to nothing but 1 minus T2 by T1. So this will be the maximum possible efficiency. So because of that, what will be happening? This term 1 minus Q2 by Q1, maximum it can go equal to 1 minus T2 by T1, or if the cycle is irreversible, it will be less than 1 minus T2 by T1. So I can write that 1 minus Q2 by Q1 in generalized form is nothing but less than equal to 1 minus T2 by T1. Okay, where this 1 minus T2 by T1 refers to the efficiency of the reversible cycle. So that is the maximum possible efficiency, and 1 minus Q2 by Q1 will be equal to this reversible efficiency when the cycle is operating in reversible fashion, and if there is any kind of irreversibility introduced, then obviously 1 minus Q2 by Q1 will be less than equal to 1 minus Q2 by T1. Okay. Similarly, if I write for refrigerator, so for refrigerator, beta is equal to QL divided by QH minus QL. So that will be once again less than equal to TL divided by TH minus TL. Okay, and accordingly I can write for heat pump QH divided by QH minus QL, which will be less than equal to TH divided by TH minus TL. Okay, so this formulation we will be getting over here. Now what will be happening? Now one important point you can see, when value of T2, so T2 is nothing but sink temperature in case of heat engine. So the T2 or temperature of thermal reservoir, which is actually getting the rejected heat from the heat engine. So when the value of T2 is becoming 0 Kelvin, corresponding to that, our efficiency will be equal to 100%. Okay, so that is one very, very important point you have to see over here. When our value of the temperature is becoming equal to absolute zero. Absolute zero means when our value of temperature is becoming 0 Kelvin, at which heat is rejected from the heat engine, then only our efficiency will be becoming 100%. Okay, so 0 Kelvin is nothing but minus 273.15 degrees Celsius. So this is not physically possible to achieve. So because of that, we will be finding that our efficiency of the heat engine can never be 100%. Okay, then if I talk about COP, so in terms of COP, you can see when our temperature which we want to maintain, okay, so when our one of the temperature is actually going to 0 Kelvin, so in that case our COP will be becoming actually infinite. Okay, so that is also once again not possible. So it means the limiting case of 100% efficiency and infinite COP is corresponding to the absolute thermodynamic temperature. Okay, so with this formulation, now I will move to another important topic. Okay, so whatever this next important topic we will be now studying, this will give to the origination to some another kind of thermodynamic property, which we call as nothing but our entropy. Okay, so let me first tell you about the Clausius inequality before jumping into the concept of entropy, because Clausius inequality is very, very important in defining the new thermodynamic property, which we call as nothing but entropy. Okay, so we have seen in case of second law of thermodynamics that majority of the times, whatever the things we are deriving from the second law of thermodynamics, everywhere we are having inequalities. In place of defining, specifically defining the equality, every time we find that we have some sort of inequality. You have seen previously, just now we have explained in case of heat engine, refrigerator and heat pump, we are having some inequality which relates the efficiency of actual cycle to that of reversible cycle. Similarly, R.J.E. Clausius was a German physicist who has given one very, very thermodynamic inequality, and he is one of the founders of the thermodynamics, from where particularly from his inequality actually we have got birth to some new thermodynamic property which we call as nothing but entropy. Okay, so as per Clausius, cyclic integral of del Q by T is less than equal to 0. Okay, so any formulation which says that cyclic integral of del Q by T is less than equal to 0, that particular this particular term is actually referred to as nothing but Clausius inequality. Okay, so now one of the key feature of this Clausius inequality is that it is applicable for any kind of process. Okay, so the classical characteristics of this particular inequality is that this inequality is applicable for any kind of thermodynamic process. Okay, so now let me take the example of a heat engine. Let me consider one heat engine, and let us try to see how this Clausius inequality works for heat engine. Okay, so what we have in case of heat engine, In case of heat engine, we have some high temperature source, some low temperature sink, and in between we have our heat engine device. Okay, and this heat engine receives QH amount of heat, it rejects QL amount of heat and produces some W amount of work. Okay, so now if I consider my heat engine device as nothing but the part of the system, and for this heat engine device, if I have to apply the Clausius inequality, so what I will be doing now, I have to now calculate for this particular heat engine device cyclic integral of del Q by T. So cyclic integral of del Q by T will be nothing but integral of del Q by T during the heat addition process. So that will be particularly during heat addition process, plus integral of del Q by T during the heat rejection process. Okay. So you can see that in this heat engine, we are getting QH amount of total amount of heat as QH, and this QH is if the heat engine, actually we are getting this heat from the thermal reservoir at temperature TH. So that's why I can write QH divided by TH, and then plus, now because we are rejecting the heat, so we are rejecting the heat, QL amount of heat. So that's why I have to write over here minus QL and divided by, finally I'll be finding as TL. So it means for a heat engine, if I write cyclic integral del Q by T, that is becoming nothing but equal to QH divided by TH minus QL divided by TL. Okay, so that is what which I have got for a heat engine device as cyclic integral of del Q by T. Now we know, just now we have seen that from our thermodynamic temperature scale, if our process is reversible, if our process is completely reversible, we know for that QH by QL will be nothing but equal to TH divided by TL. Okay, so finally I can say that my QH by TH equal to QL divided by TL. Okay, so that is one very important point which we have got for an reversible process. So if for reversible process QH by TH is equal to QL by TL, so finally we will be finding that cyclic integral of del Q by T for a reversible process will be equal to 0. Okay, because we are finding that cyclic integral of del Q by T for reversible heat engine is equal to QH by TH minus QL by TL. So we will be finding over here that okay, cyclic integral del Q by T for reversible is equal to 0. Okay. Now let me try to see it for irreversible cycle, irreversible heat engine. So once again, you can see clearly that for irreversible cycle also, if I calculate del Q by T, that will be equal to QH divided by TH minus QL by TL. Okay. Now we know that efficiency of irreversible cycle is always less than the efficiency of the reversible cycle. Okay. So efficiency of irreversible cycle will be nothing but 1 minus QL divided by QH, and efficiency of reversible cycle I can write 1 minus TL divided by TH. Okay. So from here 1 if I cancel and multiply both sides by minus 1, so I'll be finding that QL by QH is greater than TL divided by TH. Okay, and finally I will be finding that QH divided by TH is less than QL divided by TL. Okay, so this thing will be applicable for nothing but a reversible cycle. Okay, so if you don't want to get confused in between the reversible and irreversible cycle, so just let me write this symbol for irreversible cycle as say Q dash L. Okay, so instead of QL, I am writing now Q dash L. So for reversible cycle, I have used QL over here. So for the irreversible cycle, let me use Q dash L because amount of work will also be different. So our heat added and heat rejected should be different. So I am adding over here this symbol Q dash for irreversible cycle. So here also I am adding Q dash. Okay. So what I'll be finally finding that my QH by TH will be less than Q dash by L dash. Okay. So it means this term, this second term over here in my formulation of cyclic integral del Q by T, this is of more magnitude. If it is of more magnitude, then what will be happening? Finally, I will be finding that cyclic integral del Q by T for an irreversible cycle will be less than 0. Okay, so this is of more magnitude having negative sign. So that's why overall our cyclic integral del Q by T will be having magnitude less than 0. Okay, so it means for a heat engine device, when it was reversible at that time, when it was completely reversible at that time, del Q by T has become equal to 0. And when our device has become irreversible at that time, del Q by T has become nothing but less than 0. Okay, so it means in general, I can say that Clausius inequality is applicable for a heat engine, and del Q by T for an heat engine is nothing but less than equal to 0. So equal to 0 will be coming only if our cycle is reversible, and less than 0 will be coming if our cycle is irreversible. Okay. Then let me once again apply this Clausius inequality for our refrigerator device also. Okay, so let me also apply this inequality for refrigerator device. So in case of refrigerator, I'll be having temperature TH over here, and here I'll be having some temperature TL, and in between I will be having some refrigerator. Okay, and this refrigerator will be receiving say QL amount of heat, it will be rejecting QH amount of heat and requiring W amount of work to complete this process. Okay, so what will be happening for this refrigerator? If I have to define the cyclic integral of del Q by T for this refrigerator device, that will be nothing but equal to, we are adding QL amount of heat at temperature TL. So this will be having plus sign, and we are rejecting QH amount of heat at temperature TH. So minus QH by TH. This we will be finding. Okay. Now if I consider that my refrigerator is nothing but reversible. So if my refrigerator is reversible, then I simply know that QH by TH is equal to QL divided by TL. So that is something which we know for our reversible refrigerator. So in general, we are having QH by QL equal to TH by TL. So from there, actually, I'll be finding QH by TH equal to QL by TL. Okay. So it means that I can say del Q by T for reversible refrigerator is equal to 0. Okay, so for reversible refrigerator, Clausius inequality is actually becoming applicable. It is equal to 0. Okay, now if I go to irreversible refrigerator, so if I go to irreversible refrigerator, then what will be happening? We know that irreversible COP of the refrigerator QL divided by QH minus QL is less in comparison to the reversible COP, which is TL divided by TH minus TL. Okay, so I can take divide both this numerator and denominator by QL. So I will be finding 1 divided by QH by QL minus 1 is less than. Similarly over here I will divide by TL. So TH by TL minus 1 I will be getting. So finally I will be finding that TH divided by TL minus 1 is less in comparison to QH divided by QL minus 1. Okay. So minus 1 once again will cancel out, and finally I will be finding that TH by TL is less in comparison to QH by QL, and ultimately I will be finding that my QH by TH is greater in comparison to QL by TL. So this we will be finding for our reversible refrigerator. So now, irreversible refrigerator. So now if you see the Clausius inequality, obviously once again, in order to differentiate in between the reversible and irreversible, let me use over here symbol Q dash L. So in order to differentiate, let me use symbol Q dash L for irreversible. Okay, if I use same symbol, then it may create confusion. Okay, so we know that for irreversible refrigerator also, cyclic integral del Q by T for irreversible refrigerator was nothing but Q dash L divided by TL minus QH divided by TH. So this was our cyclic integral del Q by T for irreversible refrigerator. Now already I am saying that QH by TH is more in comparison to Q dash L divided by TL for an irreversible refrigerator. So because of that, once again this second term is having more magnitude. So because of its higher magnitude, what will be happening? Finally, we will be finding that cyclic integral del Q by T for irreversible refrigerator is nothing but less than 0. Okay, so it is becoming less than 0. Okay, so ultimately I can say that cyclic integral del Q by T of refrigeration device is nothing but less than equal to 0. Okay, so this is one very, very important finding. Whether we go to irreversible process or reversible process, either we are going for heat engine or refrigerator device, every time we are finding that our Clausius inequality is actually applicable. Okay, so what is the meaning of this? The meaning of this is that we have a completely reversible process. So we have seen both in case of heat engine as well as in case of refrigerator that if we are having completely reversible process, okay, or completely reversible cyclic process, so reversible cyclic process, then we will be finding that cyclic integral of del Q by T. So for reversible, so I am writing this over the integral, I am putting this circle in the mid, so it represents cyclic integral, and this I am defining for reversible, so that is nothing but is equal to 0. Okay. Now one very, very important point I would like to highlight over here. We know from our earlier knowledge that for cyclic process, the initial and final state are same. Okay, so initial and final state are actually exactly same. Okay, so that we know from our earlier knowledge that for cyclic process, initial and final states are same. So if initial and final states are same, then what will be happening? Any change of property will be nothing but equal to 0. Okay, so we know that if we are having the cyclic process where initial and final state are same. So if our initial and final state are same, obviously the change of property will be equal to 0. Why? Because property is nothing but a state function. Property is nothing but a state function. So in general, I can say that if X is my any property, say if X is my any property, so I can say that dx will be equal to x final minus x initial, and for cyclic process as initial and final states are same, so because of that dx will be equal to 0. Okay, so something like this we are getting over here. We are getting that cyclic integral of del q by t for reversible process we are getting as nothing but equal to 0. Okay, so what is the meaning of this? The meaning of this is that this cyclic integral dq by t is nothing but a property of the system. Okay, so this is one very, very important point. Now I am highlighting. You please see it carefully. I am writing that del Q by T, cyclic integral del Q by T, because it is becoming equal to 0. Okay, so anything for a cycle, change of property for a cycle is equal to 0. Okay, so because of that, I am saying that cyclic integral of del Q by T is nothing but it is a property of the system. So if we simply talk about del Q, so del Q is nothing but individual, it is a path function. So if I simply say del Q is nothing but a path function and it is not a property of the system. However, if I use this 1 by T integrating factor with it, so when I am using 1 by T integrating factor or 1 by T multiplier with this del Q term, it is making my differential as nothing but exact differential. We know that this delta Q is a path function and it is nothing but an inexact differential. So if I am multiplying it with 1 by T and then we are if taking the cyclic integral, so then it is becoming as nothing but a property of the system. It means it is changing from path function to state function. So this overall del Q by T is now nothing but a exact differential. Okay, so overall del Q by T is exact differential. Why it is exact differential? Because cyclic integral del Q by T is becoming equal to 0, and as per the formulation of property, we know that dx equal to 0 for a cyclic process when x is nothing but our property of that particular system, which depends upon the state and does not depend upon the path. Okay, so whatever now I am saying that the cyclic integral del Q by T is a property of the system, that particular property of the system we call as nothing but ds. So I'll be ds is equal to cyclic integral del Q by T, where this S is something which we call as entropy of the system. Okay, so it means from the second law of thermodynamics, we have come to know about another very, very important property which we call as nothing but entropy of the system. Okay, so at the moment you just mathematically concentrate on the fact that as cyclic integral del Q by T is equal to 0 for this system, so obviously this ds will be our exact differential, and I can simply write that ds is equal to nothing but S final minus S initial state. And as for cyclic process, final and initial states are same. So that's why I can simply write that SF minus SI is equal to 0. And finally, I will be able to say, I will be able to say that SF minus SI is equal to 0, where S is nothing but a property of the system. Okay, so from second law of thermodynamics, we have come to know about one very another kind of important property of the system. This particular property we call as nothing but entropy of the system, and it is given by a symbol S. Okay, so like other properties, for example, we have capital U, capital H for enthalpy, we have capital E for energy. So similarly, we use symbol capital S for our entropy. Okay, and while we define the specific properties, so in terms of specific properties, capital U by M we write small u. Similarly, for enthalpy we write small h. For energy, specific energy we write small e. Similarly, for specific entropy we will be writing small s as our property. Now, one important point I would like to highlight, that from second law of thermodynamics we have come to know that ds is nothing but equal to cyclic integral del Q by T. Okay, so it means second law of thermodynamics is not defining the absolute value of entropy. Okay, so second law of thermodynamics does not define absolute value of entropy. as it is defining ds, so it means it nothing but defines entropy change. So between the two states, it defines the relative change of entropy. So that's why this is very, very important point which you should remember, that second law of thermodynamics does not define the absolute value of the entropy, rather it defines entropy change. Okay, so it defines entropy change between different thermodynamic states of the system. Okay, so from the second law of thermodynamics, though we have come to know about one very, very important property which we call as nothing but entropy of the system, and this entropy we are not able to define over here the absolute value of the entropy, rather we are defining the entropy change between the two thermodynamic states. Okay, one very, very important point also I would like to highlight over here, that from here, while we have got this entropy, though we are getting this one from the formulation of the reversible process, but as we are calling it as property, so it means it is applicable for both reversible as well as the irreversible processes, because it is a state function and it does not depend upon the path. Okay, so why it does not depend upon the path, that I will be proving in our next lecture. Now I will stop at this point.